Hey everyone, today we're going to be debunking some rumors or myths from maintenance, guitar maintenance. These are all from questions I received at askknowyourgear@gmail.com. You can click that link down below if you'd like to send a question in. The first one was, can you clean your guitar with water? And the answer is yes, you can. The trick is you need to make sure that you use a clean cloth, clean water, and when you pour it on the cloth, you want to wring the cloth until it is barely damp, and you can use that to wipe down the guitar body if it's got a finish on it, and you can use that to wipe down a finished or unfinished fretboard, again very lightly damp, to the point where it's just enough moisture to maybe move some dust or dirt. Now keep in mind there's two things. One, after you use a damp cloth, you want to make sure you use a dry cloth to dry anywhere where the moisture was. And two, sadly enough, water is not very efficient for removing oils and the grime that get into oils. So although it works in a pinch, it's not going to be your best bet. Can you use vinegar to clean your guitar? Yes, as long as it's distilled vinegar. That is very important. It must be distilled vinegar. It won't harm the finish of a guitar if it's finished. Again, anytime you're working with unexposed, like acoustic guitars where the wood's unexposed and unfinished, you don't want to get any moisture near that. Don't use a lot of it and use it sparingly, and I would also wipe it down once you're done. Can you use olive oil? This is actually a question I got many times, and the answer is absolutely no, you cannot. First of all, I wouldn't use it because it's gonna rot. It's actually gonna go bad over time. It's not good. It'll also get sticky and grimy. It's just not very good, and I wouldn't use it anywhere on the instrument. Can you use Windex? Well, that falls into a whole category. Windex, 409, Pine Sol, and the answer is no. Don't use any of those cleansers or cleaners because they usually have abrasives in it or chemicals that can react badly with some of the finishes on the guitars. But more importantly, just the abrasives in them will damage the finishes on guitars. So I would stay away from Pine Sol, 409, Windex, pretty much all those multi-purpose cleaners, to stay away from them. Does guitar polish go bad? And this is a yes/no question. And what I mean is it can go bad, but keep in mind that guitar polish is made up of basically water, alcohol, fragrance, and sometimes silicone, and depends on the type of polish it is. But more importantly, those things don't go bad, but they can separate from each other. So if you ever open up polish and you see floating pieces in it, or what looks like maybe it's going bad, it just needs to be shaken or mixed better. Again, sometimes you can just mix it, stir it up, and shake it. What I will tell you is this: if it is doing that and you have stirred and shaken the polish and it still looks a little weird, separated, I would go ahead and toss it. It's not a good sign, but it shouldn't go bad. It will separate though. Is silicone bad for your guitar finish, especially your lacquer guitar finish? And the answer is no. In fact, it's used sometimes to apply those finishes or in those finishes already. So it's not going to hurt anything. A lot of times repairmen will tell you that it's bad because it can cause problems when they do refinish work on your guitar. It causes what's called a fisheye. But there's a product called fisheye flowout. This additive can be added to the refinish and it will cure that problem. So although it is a small problem, I don't think you should be overly concerned about it, even if you think one day your guitar will need some refinish work. The main thing you want to focus on is making sure you don't get a buildup. And that happens kind of like wax buildup. And the way you stay away from that is real simple. Use a cloth, a clean cloth. And what you want to do is apply the polish to the cloth, whether it's a spray or you're dabbing it on there. Make sure that you're just putting enough to where it feels like the cloth is moist, so it has enough enough friction to grab dirt and material, and then just wipe the finish on that way. And then what I recommend when you're polishing your guitar is using what's called 10-to-1. In other words, you want to wipe your guitar at least 10 times for every one time you polish the guitar. So what does that mean? Well, it means when you're done playing the guitar at a gig and you're sweating all over the guitar, take a dry cloth with no finish, either flannel, cotton, or microfiber, and wipe the guitar down dry and clean with the finish. Think of it like dishes when they're dirty. When you just have a dish and you put it in the sink fresh, it's got all the stuff on it, but it's easily removed with water and just a little bit of abrasion. when it's been dried and caked on, it's a little harder. Think of your guitar like that. When you're playing, when you stop, that's when you take a dry cloth and you wipe everything down. You'll get most of the dirt, oils, and material off the guitar, off the finish, off the strings, off the neck. And the polish is just something you're going to do as a maintenance thing. In fact, if you do it right, you very rarely have to polish your guitar. Will too much lemon oil ruin your fretboard? Well, the first part, we're not talking about real lemon oil. We're talking about fretboard conditioners. There's some here. This is lizard spit. This has orange oil in it. And a lot of times when they're talking about orange oil or lemon oil, they're either talking about a scent, like specifically lemon oil, they're talking about a scent added to the conditioner, and there's not really lemons in it. Sometimes with orange oil, like what's in this lizard spit, it does have actual orange oil in it, and it's used to be like kind of like the abrasive in removing the dirt of the conditioning. So a fretboard conditioner is a little bit of a kind of remove the dirt off the fretboard and then kind of hydrate the fretboard. So the question is, will these hurt a fretboard, especially if you use too much? Well, the first answer is important, which is Martin Guitars recommends that you don't use lemon oil on their guitars. And so you want to definitely check each guitar manufacturer for their specifications of what they think you should and should not use for that particular guitar. That being said, I think when used sparingly and in the right way, it doesn't hurt anything. And what do I mean by that? You shouldn't condition a fretboard like a rosewood or an ebony fretboard more than twice a year, and you shouldn't use it on maple at all. Can you use lighter fluid or WD-40 to clean a guitar? And the answer, believe it or not, is yes to both. Guitar players and guitar luthiers all around the world use lighter fluid to clean fretboards. It is a very common practice, so you can use lighter fluid to clean your fretboard. And also WD-40. I wouldn't put it on your fretboard, but I can tell you what I use it for. I've been using WD-40 for years to remove all of the sticker residue from stickers. I've found it very, very easy to do that. And I use it to kind of, same thing, remove, like if you have the plastic, when you peel the plastic off a pick guard and clear plastic, and sometimes it leaves a residue, I again use WD-40. The way I do it is pretty simple. Now again, you're going to notice a theme here, which is I'm always going to tell you to do it this way. This is deoxit, but I needed to illustrate for WD-40. I would do it by spraying just a little bit onto a cloth, and that's how I apply it on the guitar. If you notice, the reason I keep saying apply things to the cloth is I want control of how much of the chemical is being on the guitar and where. So WD-40 works perfect. You can use it to clean the guitar. Some people asked, can you use WD-40 to lubricate or clean the electronics? It can be done. I don't recommend it. I definitely recommend, if you're a guitar player, to buy a can of deoxit. I've been using deoxit for years. It is very expensive. If it's something that you feel like it's just too expensive for you, you can go to automotive stores and get electronic component cleaner. It works just as good. It is a fraction of the price. I've used that as well for many years, but there's something about deoxit I just trust, so I'm going to always recommend deoxit. What do I use to clean strings? There's three ways to clean a guitar string. First, there is using string cleaners with isopropanol. This works really good, and there's nothing wrong with this. You put it on a clean cloth and you wipe the strings down. You can also use rubbing alcohol. It works just as well, and I've never had any problems with that. And you can boil your strings. That's exactly right. You just put them in boiling water and you'll clean them as well. Some players actually boil their strings before they put them on the guitar. I'm not a big fan of that, but of course, I have no problems with it. It does the same thing as the string cleaners. It gets that off there. Now, that comes to a question, why would you clean your strings? Well, there's a couple reasons, believe it or not. One, as your strings get oil and grime and dirt in them, they deaden, acoustically sounding. So some players like bright strings. Some players like the dead strings. But believe this or not, a lot of players clean their strings because they don't like the smell that their fingers have when they play the guitar. I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. If you play guitar and you feel like your hands smell like garlic, believe it or not, that is actually more common than you think. A lot of players complain that their hands smell like garlic after playing with their guitar strings. And if you have a garlic smell on your hands from the strings, wash your hands, then rub your hands on anything stainless steel, like a stainless steel sink or countertop, or even a spoon or silverware, and then wash your hands one more time, and that should alleviate the smell. And it's one of those things right now, a lot of you are like, I've never heard of such a thing, and some of you are gonna go, is that what it is? And of course, some of you have actually had the problem. So I just thought I'd share that one. That one's out there for sure. And as always, I want to thank all the returning viewers for coming back and watching the channel. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. And of course, remind you, know your gear.